This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
A lot of products say they're clean, but what does that mean? Ritual has high standards for what clean means, like their essential prenatal multivitamin, which is heavy metal tested, clean label project certified, and GMO free. It features key mom-to-baby nutrients like folate, choline, and omega-3. Clean isn't clean enough, especially during pregnancy. Get 25% off at ritual.com/prenatal. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I start this program today with a simple question. As we prepare for a weekend in which both of our winter professional sports teams prepare for the postseason, the Wolves on Saturday night right here on the Fan, the Wild on Sunday night right here on the Fan, which team, which franchise, which organization needs a first-round series victory worse? Now, on the face of it, you could say, well, that's easy. The Minnesota Wild have not been out of round one for, 10 years now?
Something like that.
So to a certain extent, you could say game, set, match. This isn't really much of a debate question to open the show with, Dan. But I think it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. Because the Wild, I guess it all depends on what your perception of this franchise is and how patient you are. Because even before this season began, there were a lot of Wild fans. In fact, I used to hear from them during the season, still do occasionally, and they go, we're a cute club right now, okay? And we, to a certain extent, through the first couple of months of the season, might have even overachieved. But who's kidding whom? We're not going anywhere yet. And Billy Guerin deep down knew it. He knew that until the year 2025-26, when we would be fully and completely, except for I think like $1.5 million out from under the Suter Parisi albatross.
But that you know what?
We're not really. That's when expectations should be allowed to soar. Demand that fans should become more demanding, etc. That this is still deep down, if we're being honest, even though nobody wants to say this in the organization, another holding pattern season to prepare us for next year, when presumably we're going to have a chance to make more moves, although I think we found out we're not going to have as much money as we think we do to go out and get a major free agent, but there could be trades, etc. And you could say also that with the Wolves, well, maybe they need it worse, or they don't need it as much, on the one hand, because they made it all the way to the conference finals a year ago. But I think because expectations got raised after that run, most people started grading the Wolves on a much tougher curve than they're grading the Minnesota Wild on, right? The Wild curve might be just, we'll give you a banner if you get out of round one, knowing that more is supposed to be coming when we're out of the contract abyss. With the Wolves, though, we got to build on it. You may have made a trade that some people question, but you made it. And you got a lot of talent. The kids are a year older. And you're supposed to build on what you did last year. On the other hand, you're playing a team that has become, for many national experts, the Lakers, the team to beat. Maybe even as much as or more than the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference. So which is it? Which team more desperately needs to get out of round one this season with the backdrop that each team has coming at it from different places? Where's your vote?
My vote, I fear, is clouded by the fact that I'm basketball super fan and basketball bias.
Well, Fallness will appreciate the honesty.
I just want to get that disclaimer out there.
I mean, he'll be annoyed by it, but he'll be encouraged that you acknowledged it.
I think the Wolves need it more. Even though I think they have, in some ways, the tougher challenge, because it is basketball, it's not hockey. No one can really steal a basketball series like Gus Bus could theoretically steal the series against the Vegas Golden Knights. I think for perception, I think the Wolves need it more. I do. I don't think it's a slam dunk, no pun intended, but I think it would be more impactful for the Wolves because if the Wolves, I think, have still been trying to tell us that they're true contenders, that even though they made the trade for Cat, they did that in part because they wanted to elongate a championship window with Anthony Edwards. Well, presumably that would include the year after they were one step away from the final step in the process, the NBA Finals. You would think you would want to consider yourselves contenders this year, whereas I don't think the Wild have ever really tried to pretend that they were that this season, and I don't think anybody's expecting them to be that this season.
I lean your way as well, in part because, as I said, I guess maybe it also all depends on how, if only one of these teams advances, and it might be neither, but let's say one of them does, I think let's say the Wild are eliminated again in the first round. Part of it might have to do with how are they eliminated.
Right.
Did they get swept?
Same, yeah.
Was it brutal? Was it they weren't even all of that competitive? Did they extend it to 7? And did they really have a chance that they could win the series? Because I still think, and I'm not even sure it's a favor to the organization, but I still think there are a lot of Wild fans who are grading on a really generous curve. And I think it's going to change next year, and it might get out of proportion silly how much expectations are going to rise.
For sure.
The demand's going to go up on what you've lost that hand behind you, the one hand behind your back excuse. It's over. And it's almost like, well, now we expect you at least go from nothing to, at the very least, the conference finals or even further. But I think you're right. I think I lean Wolves. I think part of it is, and this is, well, again, how mad can you be at the Timberwolves if most of the national experts are saying this is a really tough first-round matchup for the Wolves, who finished by winning 17 of their last 21 games. It's the Lakers. They've put together 2 of the best closers out there, even though LeBron is now ancient, and we know about Luka. To that extent, you could say, well, then there's a built-in excuse for the Wolves to get eliminated in round 1 and not build at all on what took place last year. But I do think it's inevitable that you expect a little more of the team that went further, even if the roster's different, and even though this season has been a lot more uneven for the Wolves, and even if the opponent that they're playing is viewed as extremely dangerous because they've got 2 very good closers, and they've got a third scorer who in the last month has kind of emerged as a sneaky, unbelievably effective third offensive threat. That said, I don't know if you saw these numbers. They got my attention. I've seen some of them, but not in aggregate like this. Statistical profiles of the 2 clubs since the All-Star break. And I don't know, what's the right number to use in terms of, is it the last 25 games? This is since the All-Star break, and this basically means last 30 games for the Lakers, last 26 for the Wolves. The Lakers 18-12, the Wolves 18-8. More importantly, offensive rating. Lakers 17th, Wolves 3rd.
Believe.
Defensive rating. Lakers 17th, Wolves 12th. Now the Wolves for the season, I think, are in top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating, but we'll get to that in a minute. Net rating. Now some of these are deep analytical ratings, so you have to decide which ones you put more stock into than others. Net rating. Lakers, 2.1, which is 15th. Wolves, 8.3, which is 5th.
Believe.
Field goal percentage. That's considered kind of like your true field goal percentage, correct? Lakers, 55.9%. That's 14th in the league. Wolves, 57.2%. That's 4th.
Believe.
Rebound percentage. Lakers, 17th. Wolves, 8th. Assist percentage, I don't know how meaningful a stat that is. That's a semi-push. The Lakers are 20th, the Wolves are 15th.
Ball's moving.
Turnover percentage. This might surprise you. Lakers are ranked 25th Wolves, 5th at 13.1. And I'm not interested in, pace of play. That doesn't really mean that much to me. The moral of the story is, if you care about a lot of statistical categories, you can make the argument that it's a bit insane that, nationally speaking, the perception of this series is the Wolves will be lucky to extend it and even would have to be even luckier to win it. And if you look at some of the deep numbers, and we'll go over some of these with Mike Trudell at 3:30 because he might have some but items to throw at us because of how knowledgeable he will be about the Lakers in particular, is that Luka's numbers offensively, especially at the rim, pale in comparison to what he was doing with Dallas before the trade and last year with the Dallas Mavericks. And I scratched my head when I saw some of these numbers today, and I'm going, well, maybe the perception of this series nationally is a little bit off. Large measure, we know why. Because the two biggest names, I'm saying the best players, but the two biggest names in this series are Luka and LeBron, right?
Yes.
And as a result, it's almost like, well, it's Luka and LeBron, though. Imagine the magic they might be able to make. We haven't seen it on a consistent basis, but we've seen it in stretches. We've seen it most recently, that game against Oklahoma City, and even the rematch against Oklahoma City, they were nip and tuck. It was a 1-point game when Luka got thrown out. But I think there is a legitimate case to be made that the Wolves are underrated at this point. Forget emotion. Just in terms of performance, the numbers that you look at to talk about performance. And so even some of the national people that I do trust, several of them have picked the Wolves, including Brian Scalabrine, who picked the Wolves in 6. I've seen a couple other folks say Lakers in 7, but they think it's a toss-up series, and they're surprised that there aren't more people picking the Wolves. But it does tell you that there may be a lot of people, maybe even in this town, because of the fear and loathing of Luka, and it's just what's the Lakers.
Yeah, a lot of scar tissue.
That are actually not giving this club as much of an opportunity as if they perform the way they have tended to perform the second half of this season, if they continue to do so.
And that's the big Ron Rosenbaum but. Mm-hmm. The numbers back up that you should feel good about yourselves going into this series against the Lakers.
Yes.
But you got to go do it.
You do.
You got to go do it. Because of their pedigree, especially Luka, and really especially LeBron, they're going to be at a certain level when this thing tips off tomorrow night. There's not going to be a big deviation from what they've done in the postseason, probably, right? With the Wolves, there's a few more question marks there. That can they do that at that level as long as they need to in a 7-game series against an opponent that's going to do it? That's the numbers back up that they can, and they should feel good and confident. Now they have to go out and execute it and perform it. That's the big question mark.
They have been. And
can they?
They have been a more efficient, smooth-running operation on the court than the Lakers, even though the Lakers have, you got the incredible highlight packages of what Luka and or LeBron in particular, and even Austin Reeves are doing on any given night. All right, we'll get to some text when we come back. We'll remind you, as I mentioned, that Mike Trudell is going to join us at 3:30. Ben Gessling, 4:30, and Lavelle at 5:30 this very evening. Back in just a minute.
Hold on.
Oh, you got a grand in
We
your
got
hand?
bonus bucks, but I want to remind people about our Wolves talkback giveaway.
Good point.
We've been doing it all day on the Fan. Every show has a pair of tickets for Game 3, Wolves-Lakers, 1 week from tonight, next Friday night. And we just need your talk back on the series. Why the Wolves are going to win, why you feel confident. Do you feel confident? You've got 30 seconds to do it. Hit the talk back icon of your iHeartRadio app. We'll pick a winner before the end of the show today. But we would love to give you $1,000 as well. BigDeck.com wants to help you with that. Bonus bucks. And the first keyword of the afternoon is money. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword.
A lot of products say they're clean, but what does that really mean? At Ritual, we have very high standards for what clean really means. Like for our best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, which is heavy metal tested, clean label project certified, and GMO-free. It features key mom-to-baby ingredients like folate for neural tube support, choline for baby's brain development, and omega-3 for brain and vision support. But our high standards don't stop there. All of the ingredients in our essential prenatal multivitamin are sourced through our made traceable supply chain, so it's clear where they come from and why they're there. Because clean isn't clean enough, especially during pregnancy. Shop Ritual for the support you deserve with 25% off at ritual.com/prenatal. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Money.
Fan.
Bonus Bucks is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday, every hour from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. To enter the keywords and learn more, head to KFAN.com. Bonus Bucks presented by BigDeck.com.
You want me to blow a gasket today? I will. I can. I will tell you that the quickest way to get me to blow a gasket on a Friday program where it's supposed to be free and easy is text like this. This is from John the mail carrier. Not the M-A-L-E carrier, the mail, M-A-I-L carrier. Not to mention, you not only have to play the Lakers, but the refs in the league as well. Go ahead. Knock yourselves out. Wallow in it. And pity your team. Pity yourselves. Feel sorry for yourselves. Play the victim all you want. But I'll tell you, the quickest way to be sure the Wolves have no chance to proceed is what is not implied, it's stated in that mentality. Can we ever grow up as a market? In all seriousness, can we ever mature as a market and get past that, what is basically a really handy excuse that within the realm of any given game may or may not have anything to do with what takes place? You believe in it, I think. And
well, we'll see how the series plays out.
I'm not going to, but you're going to do it the way he's doing it. You're going to remember the plays that fit your narrative.
I'm going to try hard.
You're going to remember you're not going to remember if Anthony Edwards goes to the free throw line in a game 27 times. You're going to go, well, yeah, we should have, because he got fouled that often. I'm just saying that the Wolves are dead and buried before the series starts if they allow that attitude to creep into their thinking. I mean, look, the league has always not minded when teams from bigger towns succeed, right? I'd be foolish to think otherwise. But if you reduce everything to it, you could almost say, why play? Let's just surrender now. Let's not even have a series if that's the road you're going to go down. What that sounds like is exactly what I was just saying. For that guy, he's already decided. So he's going to watch every game through that prism. And so, once again, he's going to remember the plays that reinforce it. And he's going to leave out the plays and say, God, we got a break on that. Hell, we already got a break when Anthony Edwards had his last technical foul rescinded. Which my guess is we would have beaten Utah. Was that the last game, Utah? Regardless.
Yes.
But
they needed him, though. It was a close game for a while.
Well, actually, it was until it wasn't. And he was, what did he score, 43 or 44?
Yeah.
In the game, he had a very good game there. So yeah, we can break this down. But it's such a pitiful sort of approach to everything, because it's so defensive, it's so defeatist, and it's the we like it. It's that childish. We like it here, and we never get a break, and nobody cares about us, and what happened to us? If there's more attention being granted the Lakers, it's because, and talking about media from his media standpoint, we know why that is. It's give or take with the Celtics. These are the two most famous and accomplished franchises in the history of the league, right? You got the star power of look, let me explain also this. Wherever Luka went, wherever he got traded to, if he was going to be traded at all, that team was going to get outsized attention. Because it was the Lakers, it hurt worse just because for all the obvious reasons. That you go, God, the Lakers, they seem to get all these guys. But so knock yourselves out. If you want to wallow in that and cry yourself to sleep and we don't have a chance, what it comes off as is I'm already setting myself up for us losing. And this way I don't have to hold any of the players on the team accountable or the coach accountable or the organization accountable. It will be so far beyond them. I have to believe, and as I said, I don't even mind strategically if Finchie in the pregame preach before game one says, guys, we're going to get screwed. I get it. There's a good chance we're going to get screwed.
We got to deal with it.
But we're going to first of all, let me work it because I will. I'll work it. I'm not going to deny it or ignore it if I think I can gain the Phil Jackson advantage, at least between games, if not during a game. But I'm just telling you, we're doomed if we go down that particular road. And everybody knows it. It shouldn't be that difficult at this point. But in all honesty, and again, I mean, we can't leave out stats that are actually favorable to us in terms of free throws, which we tend to do. We don't believe in them. And I've said that here's the other thing that bugs me. We assume that in a given game, all the free throws should be even. Each team, if one team takes 20 attempts, the other team should too. That's not how it works. It depends on how each team is playing. I said from the beginning, once we knew the matchup is, I want the Wolves, especially because everybody thinks the Lakers are going to stay small, because that's been their best lineup at the end of games. No center, literally. I say downhill, attack, go right at them. You've got some people who, obviously, we don't have a lot of great one-on-one players, but Randall can go at people. We know Anthony Edwards can go at people for sure. Make that happen. And even Naz Reid.
Naz can
absolutely go at people. So that's, to me, what you have to do. But you're why even bother covering the games, paying attention to the games? And if all you're going to watch is that, then God bless you. But I think it's a miserable way to go about your business. The Lakers are good. There's the possibility if the Lakers win this series as the higher seed with the home court advantage, it's because they're good. Now, I think the Wolves have a very good chance to beat them. But I'm just not going to reduce it the way folks want to reduce the thing, I guess, because that's an itch that they feel like they have to scratch. We'll see what Mike Trudell thinks about that. He's torn because now he's with the Lakers TV network, but he's Orono's own. So he's got a lot of Timberwolves tentacles as well.
He grew up in the KG era like I did.
We'll see if he will grant the premise offered up by that texter, that we should just assume that the Lakers are going to get every call and what the Wolves can do about it. We'll try to get them going there. And again, we'll get to NFL draft now right around the corner. God knows we can't forget that. That's with Ben Gessling at 4:30, brought to you by Standard Heating and Air. And then Lavelle E. Neal III on your red hot, scorching hot Minnesota Twins, among others.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar. I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
The things at 5:30.
Keep the talkbacks coming. We've got your shot to win Wolves-Lakers Game 3 tickets. Send us your Wolves talkback on the iHeartRadio app. 30 seconds or less, your thoughts on the series. Stay tuned all day to hear if you were selected as the winner.
On the other hand, Mike Trudell is with us now. He's one of us from way back when, Orono's own, who has many, many years ago discovered the West Coast, and I doubt he's ever going to come back at this point. He is utterly and completely immersed in the SoCal culture. He is, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he has bought a jacket similar to the Rob Pelinka jacket.
Oh, yeah.
He might have had it before Pelinka did.
Yeah.
Lord knows he could wear it. He's got the physique.
Former soccer player.
Exactly it.
Yep.
He now joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. You're never coming back, are you?
Well, I wouldn't rule that out completely. You know, I'm a son of Minnesota. You know, I love it. Lake Minnetonka is still what I see in my dreams at times. I do have to say there's one part, though, that I would never go to, and that is Edina. Now, if it's not Edina, it's possible that I would consider somewhere else, but it's got to be way away from the Edina zip code, Dan.
I'm not here to rip you. You got a good gig. You've settled in nicely. Who wouldn't want to? I don't think you have to apologize for it. I don't think if it damages your one of us card, I would say damage away if I were you, because I'd say, well, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. I will ask this, though. Can we hold you at all responsible for the 3-hour, this is right before the playoffs start, Lakers infomercial on Sirius XM NBA channel yesterday with one of your bosses, I'm assuming, on a higher level, Jeannie Buss? I mean, honest to God, that is where I understand Minnesota fans' paranoia. They're like, God, turn over the whole network to the Lakers. I mean, what else can you do?
Well, the weird thing is, since I moved out here, and that was 2008, right? So the Lakers and Wolves have never even come close to playing each other in a playoff series. In fact, the first series that I almost attended but couldn't quite afford to do because I had driven back for Lakers Kings in the conference semis for Game 6, drove back from Chicago from college, and then they were going to play the Lakers in the next round, of course. At this point, everybody's hurt. No Sam Cassell, no Fred Hoiberg. I think KG's playing point guard, basically. That was unfortunate. No Troy Hudson. That was the last time that these two teams met. So I've never gotten the chance to come back and check out Lake Minnetonka, see all my high school friends. So I am personally very excited, Dan, but it is going to bring up a certain level of emotion because I always want Minnesota to do well in everything. As you know, the Vikings still give me minor heart attacks every season when they inevitably lose. And I'm not looking forward to the possibility of being on that other side of doing a walk-off interview as Luka Doncic does what he did to Gobert last season and kind of just takes the wind out of the arena like that. So I'm going to have to cope with that emotionally, Dan.
Well, you sidestepped the infomercial completely. That's interesting. I guess. Well,
I actually didn't see it, to be honest with you.
Well, this was on XM on the Sirius channel, radio channel. Yeah, it was 3 hours. And either way, if anybody has an opportunity to book that, would do it. Obviously, as an NBA owner, I mean, for God's sake, you do it. But I can then, in that context, understand Minnesota fans getting a little paranoid and say, well, where's A-Rod? How come he didn't get 3 hours? Or maybe they asked him and he didn't want to do it. Hard to say. Let's clear the air on one thing that I hope you can help me with, but maybe you can't. The built-in assumption from these texters, quite frankly, from the producer of this show and many, many others, is don't even think you can win the officiating battle. You're going to lose that. The Lakers are going to get every call. Luka's he'll complain a lot. He won't get enough technicals, and he'll get every call. LeBron will get calls. Reevesy will get calls. We're going to get no calls. So do you want to go ahead and say, yeah, you agree? Or do you want to try to calm people down and say, seriously, man, is that really what the way we're figuring this thing out in 2025?
Well, Dan, I'll just tell you what I think. I don't know that it's going to be persuasive to those that are waiting for the calls to happen. I will say that if you take the Lakers' last playoff series, they did not get more calls against the Nuggets when Nikola Jokic dispatched them in the previous year. Okay. So that's one thing. Now, if you fast forward to this season, I'm going to give you a number. Okay, the number is 1.4. That's the difference in free throws attempted by the Lakers and the Wolves this season.
That's correct.
So they're actually pretty close in terms of the regular season. Now, in a postseason context, in a postseason context, what the Lakers have though, and I think this is kind of a key. We could use this as a barometer for the series, right? Don't forget it, but just use this as part of it.
Right.
secondary and tertiary shot creation. Okay, so number one on both teams, you have Luka, you have Anthony Edwards. I think that Luka has a little bit more experience in carrying a team in a postseason context, but Ant is awesome and he generates a ton of pressure on the rim and the threes at high volume. He's been amazing. So let's put them up top. Then at number two, you've got LeBron James. Okay, and you've got on the other side probably Julius Randle. Then number three, you've got Austin Reeves, and you tell me who the third guy is there in that context. Is it a Conley if things go well? Is it DiVincenzo because of the minutes he's playing? Is it Alexander Walker? I'm not sure, and that to me is the difference in sort of fair. Why you're putting pressure on the opponent and their defense. And all three of the guys that I mentioned from a Lakers standpoint are excellent at getting to the free throw line and getting fouled. Now, there's a little grift sometimes in Reeves and Doncic. They're baiting a little bit. Yeah. LeBron doesn't do that as much. LeBron is more like, I'm bigger, I'm faster, I'm stronger, I'm getting to the rim unless you grab me. So I just think that the whole Laker free throw thing, I think they're fourth right now in the league overall. Yeah, they're fourth on the season. And to me, it generally is because they have the types of players that do draw fouls.
Yes.
So that to me would be my answer.
Yes, that's what we're trying to say. We get in these games of, each team should have the exact same number of free throws if the game's being officiated correctly. That leaves out what the players do, the impact they have, the pressure they put on defense, which is not me saying there aren't days where you go, how did he get that call? But there's so much more involved in it. But it's a losing battle because I think what people do here is they're almost protecting themselves for the hurt. We might as well go in now, and I just think it's a tiring game. All right, let's play the.
That's what I do during Vikings games.
That's true.
I get it.
So you remain connected in that way. That's a very good point. So let's play the game this way. The Lakers will win. I know there may be a bunch of different reasons you feel that way. Give me the number one reason you believe the Lakers will win this series. Or if they do win this series, here is the most important reason that you think it goes that way.
Well, so I think that it's a little bit related to what I just said. And I think the Lakers are going to get better shots. They're going to have higher shot quality than the Wolves. And that's because of the pressure. It starts with Luka at the top. You can't really play a drop coverage against him, which is what the Wolves like to do with Gobert. Yeah. You can't really blitz him because then it's a 4-on-3 with LeBron and Austin Reeves on the other side. They're going to get a wide open shot. And if you switch, Doncic is perfectly happy and comfortable attacking often the big, right off the dribble, and either getting all the way to the rim or kicking out for an open shot. So I don't know, even as great as the Wolves are defensively, such good defensive talent on the perimeter, some of the best in the NBA. They've got great rim protection, but there isn't really a great scheme that I've seen so far once the Lakers got Luka Doncic that keeps the Lakers from getting good shots. Doesn't mean they're going to make them every night, but they're going to get good shots. Then on the other hand, Anthony Edwards, last time I was on your show, Dan, we talked a little bit about him just as a 23-year-old. The one area where he can really still grow a little bit is that next step of reading what the defense is going to do and anticipating. And there's just no real way to do that at age 23, unless maybe you're Luka Doncic and you've been seeing Real Madrid, offenses or defenses since you were 16. So I think he's still got a little bit of growth to go there. And the Lakers are going to probably throw some stuff at him. They did in the regular season, whether it's a blitz, whether it's shading and recovering. And I just think that's the key area to me, is that it could be a little bit more difficult for the Wolves to get those good open shots from the players they want to be shooting them than it is for the Lakers.
All right, complete this sentence. If the Timberwolves win this series, the number one reason will be blank.
I have been racking my brain. I called Jim Peterson, who often imparts knowledge on me when I'll get to say I'll watch like 3/4 of a Wolves game, but I missed the whole thing and I want to get a little context. Mm-hmm. I think if the Wolves can just find a way to really uncork a lineup, and maybe it doesn't include Mike Conley, maybe it's DiVincenzo that gets into that mix, and they've got shooting and spacing all around so that Ant has more room to operate, or if they do blitz, it's resulting in wide open corner threes for a DiVincenzo. Let's say that McDaniels gets hot from there. Maybe even a guy like Shannon gets a look and he comes up and that athleticism bothers the Lakers getting downhill to the rim. So it would be to me if they just get hot and knock down the types of shots that the Lakers are sort of willing to concede because they're more worried about Anthony Edwards and not giving him that open court to attack. So that to me would be the way that I could see the Wolves having some success and in really pushing the Lakers, and then just kind of, thinking that Ant goes up an extra level. Like what I just said in the previous thing about how Ant hasn't seen every NBA defense in the way that LeBron has, the way that Luka has. Well, maybe what if his computer is just on that next level already for this year, and he takes that next step? So that it's a mix of Ant and then the guys that are getting those open looks around him, just really being efficient and knocking them down. One
of the critical questions that has already been analyzed ad nauseum before the series has begun is the Rudy question. The Lakers, I don't have to tell you, their best lineup, I think, at the end of games, there's literally no center, I don't think. They go extremely small but effective. So the assumption is if they go with that, there's a chance the Wolves are going to have a really hard time keeping Rudy on the court. The Wolves insist, we're going to make the Lakers adjust. We're going to make Rudy a part of our offensive game the way we have pretty extensively the last month, albeit not always against great teams. So how crucial a question is that? Give me your own analysis on that particular question.
Yeah, so this would be the other direction you could point, Dan. I think from afar looking at the Lakers and thinking, all right, well, they moved Anthony Davis. He was the player that anchored their defense. And they often play this lineup that you just referenced. And basically it's the starters, but you're replacing Jackson Hayes with Dorian Finney-Smith.
Right.
And Dorian Finney-Smith can play. All right. To me, he's one of the more underrated guys around the league. Players and coaches love him. He is affectionately known as Dodo. He never misses a defensive rotation. He's a 40+% guy from beyond the 3-point line. He can defend bigs. He can switch out and defend guards. He's a connective player. He never takes too many dribbles. If you give him the ball, he moves it on and gets to the next spot. Like, he knows when to set the Gortat screens. He's just a really clever and good guy to have out there. So I think the net ratings, I want to say, is something like +17 for the Lakers when they play that group. And yes, like on the one hand, you think, well, maybe they're susceptible if you can get past the first line of defense because they don't have that level of a rim protection of a Gobert, of what they used to have with Anthony Davis. But what they're great at, Dan, they don't even show you the gap in the first place to get to the rim. They pre-switch. LeBron captains this, right? Luka's actually really good at this defensively. So by the time that you shift the ball to the other side of the court, two of the Laker players, whether it's Hachimura, who's, LeBron size, whether it's Finney-Smith, who's 6'8", whether it's Luka, who's 6'8", or LeBron, who's 6'9", and, still one of the strongest guys in the league, they are already in the gap that you want to attack. And teams kind of end up looking around and saying, well, okay. And then they take a contested two. So it's the idea of it, maybe there isn't the rim protection, but it's very difficult for teams to find a way to actually get to the rim when they're locked in and rotating. So that's a longer answer maybe than what you were looking for, Dan, but that is the best lineup the Lakers have. And it reminds me a little bit defensively, to take out offense, defensively, of the Warriors that used to be quote unquote small, but it's Draymond Green, it's Harrison Barnes, it's Klay Thompson, it's Andre Iguodala. It's all guys who are, 6'7" and above and can move their feet and have some strength up top. So that to me is where it's small, but still long enough and still stout. And that's why they go to it so often.
You have Mike Trudell. We're chatting with Mike Trudell, Lakers sideline reporter, studio analyst, the whole bit. He's a studio host. He's everywhere on the Lakers networks. But you have a coach who I think most people view as being a pretty smashing success in his first year. And I think here I've picked up over the course of this week a number of people who are worried that, okay, this guy might come up also with a wrinkle in the postseason, a strategical flourish that we also might not be ready for. So give me some sense of what you've picked up about him as a coach, the job he's done this year, and whether he is the kind of guy that's like, I got something up my sleeve that maybe in terms of a matchup change, something that looks off kilter that he says can work. What might we anticipate in that regard?
Well, Dan, I'm gonna answer your question without fully answering it, because it's such an astute answer that I don't want to speculate about what it is and then have it be right, and then have JJ find out that I speculated on it on your show.
Okay.
But your premise is so good, because like the way that I describe Redick, and this is why I was interested before he was even hired. I actually heard him on a podcast where he was talking about coaching his 9-year-old son's team in Brooklyn. And I texted a couple people within the Lakers organization and was just like, just listen to this. Listen to this guy talk about basketball. He is obsessed with basketball. What he calls himself is a basketball sicko. And so he is the guy that like last year when he was an analyst, the second out here on the West Coast, it would have been 7 p.m. on the East Coast, but the second league pass game start, boom, that laptop's open or the iPad's open and the other game is behind it. And he's texting coaches. He's calling former players that he played with. Like, he is always trying to figure out what the next angle is. So I do think that's I'm excited for his sake, and I suppose this would be from a Lakers perspective, about how that works in a playoff series, Dan, where the adjustments are so major sometimes between games 1 and games 2 that you can't necessarily fully anticipate what it is, but you just locked in on it. And like my question back to you would be, how about Finch in that context? Like, what has he shown this year? Is there something that he, like, not playing the young guys a lot in the regular season, was that designed? Was it sort of because of the pressure to win games on a daily basis? Is there a curveball that can be brought out? Will we see a Shannon or a Dillingham? Does he have the confidence to use them in certain lineups if Conley doesn't work? Like, I'm just as curious what you guys think from a Wolves standpoint. It could be out there from their adjustment standpoint.
Well, the ongoing part of what changed this season was a guy who I thought was too reluctant to use some of the young players eventually was forced to because of the injuries, and they got some return on that. You're not going to see, I'll be shocked if you see hardly anything of Dillingham unless it's at the end of the game because they're so far ahead or so far behind. And I don't think Shannon you're going to see a lot of. Who's our defensive specialist, Gaardsy?
Clark.
That could be an X factor. You go, now, can you live with if he doesn't give you much offense, but they love him defensively. So
he started the game against the Lakers in February.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I didn't remember that. Well, so that's, in terms of strategy, no, I think what he has done, the most effective thing he's done, and we'll see if it holds up in the postseason, is, and I don't know if he had a talk with Randall about this or Randall had, come to Jesus meeting with himself, but when he got hurt for an extended period, he came back different. He came back almost as at peace with, I'm not going to score 30 that often. I know I'm a scorer, or I have been, but I kind of stopped worrying about that. So I've said all along this year, the best way to maximize the strengths of Randall and attempt to minimize the weaknesses is Randall, the point forward, Randall, the playmaker, and get the ball in and out of your own hand, move it to the right place, the right time. And he's done a lot more of that. And I think that's the best move, if Finchie has encouraged that he has made, because I think it's made Randall fit in better. He seems willing to accept that now more. Strategically, I don't know, because to me it's going to be who flinches first on Rudy, right? If the Lakers successfully isolate him 3 or 4 times in the first quarter of the first game, okay, what do? Do you go, we're going to have to go to plan B pretty quick, or do you say, no, stay calm, we're going to keep this going, we're going to find ways still to make them pay, he's going to get a couple of dunks, we're going to do it. That's, to me, where we're going to find out on Finchie how stubborn he's going to be about a player who he has said publicly the Wolves have to have in this series.
So my view from afar on that, Dan, is that it's much less likely to be Gobert that's played off the floor than it would be Conley. And that's not that's not a knock on Conley.
No.
There are so few guards that are that age in NBA history that can be productive in the postseason, including some of the best ever, like a Chris Paul. And the fact that Conley has still had the season that he had, like, that impresses me off the top. But, I don't know that there's a place that you put Conley defensively on this Lakers group. And that's partly, to me, is giving Austin Reeves some credit. Like, Reeves is a dude. He's a dude. In Minnesotans that haven't gotten to watch him a lot are going to be familiar with that pretty quickly. And he's especially a dude when your top 2 defensive guys have to be focused on LeBron and Luka Doncic. And so, to me, that makes it more difficult to have somebody like Conley out there, whereas with Gobert, sure, he might get called up and Luka's going to cross him over and he's going to get a step back through over him. Another time he's going to fly by him, but Rudy's still doing stuff that helps, I think.
Yes.
Right? And, and the question is, if you take him off the court, Dan, you're still going to put on Naz Reid. Well, Naz isn't going to guard Luka either.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that to me is like you kind of have to say, Rudy is he's going to get some offensive rebounds. He's going to provide the roll threat. You're going to have to tag him from behind. And sure, he might drop the ball in the short roll a couple times, and he might get the ball deflected out of his hands. But I would be surprised if they went away from Gobert, even if Doncic puts him in the torture chamber a couple times. To me, it's more going to be we're going to see more of Alexander Walker and DiVincenzo than we are Conley.
That's very possible, and I think the beauty of it for Finchie is Conley gets it. You know, Conley now actually started pretty poorly this season by his own admission. He got better. I think he got healthier. I think he can still be sneaky good, but I think he is smart enough at this point in his career to say he's not going to make waves. He's not going to cause trouble. Finchie's not going to have to worry about, oh, God, I got it. You know, there's certain guys that I got to have them on the floor. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Out of respect. I don't think that's going to be a problem, and I think you've hit on a key piece of this. You can make the argument with the Lakers' big three. The Wolves have to have either, on a given game at least, either DiVincenzo or Naz Reid be big from a scoring standpoint. And one of those two guys, maybe both, but one of them in each game has to do it. Doesn't mean they can necessarily match the Lakers' big three, but they got to have another piece that I think can give some of that, you know, at his best. DiVincenzo can be very dynamic. You've watched him, you know him. He's a player who can play with force when it's going right for him. And Reid is the other odd one because he has been, what, Gaardsy, would you say? Second half of the season, I think he's been very in and out. We've not seen the best of him. So does that mean he's just not going to be as good as he was through much of the playoffs last year? Or can he, you know, remember who he was in the past? But they have to have somebody, like you said. McDaniels has improved offensively, but I look at his three-point shooting. It's still not very good. He's actually trying to take the ball to the basket more often, but I'm still not sure he's more a candidate than the other two on a consistent basis when it comes to adding another offensive piece.
Yeah, I like the way you kind of put that in context, Dan, because this is the difference, and maybe why some would favor the Lakers slightly, is that you think you know what you're going to get from Doncic, from LeBron, and even from Austin Reeves, who at this point is through enough playoff runs, has proven that he's going to be able to be productive. So, you know, how can Julius Randle raise his game from last time that he played in the postseason that wasn't as effective? And look, there's talent there. You know, he doesn't always make the right decision on when to shoot, when to pass, but and he tries hard though. Like, that's the one thing I'll always defend Randle. It isn't always perfect, but he's always trying to do what he thinks is going to help the team win the most. And then is there another guy, maybe it's DiVincenzo, his shot volume goes up. Is there another guy that can just play over their head a little bit and take a step? And then the way that you mentioned Naz Reid there, maybe that is the answer. Like, he does have the talent. Like, I think Minnesota fans know this very well. Maybe nationally, even though he was Sixth Man of the Year, there's still some catching up to do. But that is the question. Are there guys, and again, maybe it's Naz, that can really take a step forward here? Minnesota has to have that, because I think the Lakers are going to get what they're going to get from their top three. And then you've got Rui Hachimura and Dorian Finney-Smith shooting wide open shots. I think they're going to be productive as well. But who on the Wolves can make a step up? I think they're going to need that.
Two final texts as we wrap things up with Mike Trudell. Both coming in from Larry Mondello guy. Here's the first. Well, they're really, I mean, they sound the same theme, the same concept. One reads, I think I speak for all of Minnesota when I say to Trudell, don't bother coming back, traitor. You're dead to us. His other one is, if Trudell is going to use words like tertiary, don't bother coming back to the blue-collar sensibilities of Minnesota. And definitely don't go to South St. Paul, Mr. Hollywood. So there you have it. A lot of bitterness.
I mean, I'm trying to get into a spot where I'm not defensive about this. I did have an older brother, 2 years older than me at Orono, and he made fun of me when I was younger, and so I am defensive. So I'm just going to try to take in the critique, and try to and like when I walk into the arena, though, what I'm trying to do is separate somebody that's willing to make a comment like that versus sort of the normal people that are just enjoying listening to Dan and Justin on the radio as usual. And I'm gonna try to isolate that perspective and not fully take it to heart, Dan. But it did cut a little bit. It did cut a little bit.
I would say my observation, tertiary is the verbal equivalent of Rob Pelinka's jacket. Like it's not gonna work here. It might work there, but it's not gonna work here. A word like that is the verbal equivalent of Pelinka's jacket.
Right. Noted. If I come on your show ever again, possibly next week, maybe in person, I'm just going to say third option.
That's much better.
Dumb it down. Yeah, third option. We get it.
If you do end up coming back on our show, and if we happen to be doing a show from the Target Center studio, which is unlikely based on schedules, but anything possible, will you promise us that you will show up without a shirt, a la LeBron James, 4 hours before a game the other day?
Thankfully, the Lakers avoiding the play-in meant that I did get to have 2 days of spring break in Palm Springs.
Oh.
I don't think this is going to make my buddy feel any better.
No.
So I did have my shirt off for the last couple of days, and the tan's decent right now.
Feeling good.
Hey, what's the weather? What's the weather on Saturday? A week from tomorrow, because if it's above 50 degrees, you will see me on a boat on Lake Minnetonka. If it's above 50 degrees,
you should be okay.
I still can hold it down in terms of like my bones are still from Minnesota, even if you think my ego no longer is.
You should be all right. We're looking at 60s pretty much all next week, so you should be good.
You should be good. Even
all
better.
Right. Catch me at Lord Fletcher's. JG, you are invited onto the boat. I haven't determined which one of my friends that I'm going to make. Johnny, if you're listening, this might be you. Okay, you might be getting a text. Let's get that boat nice and cleaned up. All right.
Well, you know what? Another boat option might be our guy Glenn Mason, the former Gopher coach who joins us all the time. He's got he might invite you on his boat.
That's true.
Yeah, that might be another option for you if you're looking for options.
Okay.
That might work.
I am looking for options. I'll be sending out some text messages.
Excellent.
But I just want to get through games 1 and 2. I am very excited. I think it's going to be some fun basketball.
I agree. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm glad this is how it's working out.
I am very much eager to see this thing start as well. Thanks for the time as always. We'll be in touch.
Is that true? Are you guys excited that it's the Lakers, or were you kind of like, maybe you want to see somebody else?
No,
real quick
I like the matchup. But what I told Gaardsy 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I knew he hates Luka. that
and you used to too, Mike.
It's inevitable that it's going to fall that way, where the Wolves are going to end up having to play them in round 1, and so I wasn't surprised when it fell that way. But no, I think this is this is a dynamic, great first round series. I think
I agree with Dan. I don't like Luka, but I think it's very cool to have LeBron in a playoff series at this point in his career. I think I just think it's cool to be a part of. So I'm looking forward to it too.
He's the first player in NBA history in year 22 that is even playing in the postseason. Now, of course, the only other player that made it 22 years is Vince Carter, but he averaged 16 minutes a game, and they didn't make the playoffs. So totally unprecedented, and I'm glad that Minnesota's going to get a chance to check it out, even if they hate me now.
There's two, I think, facts that are taken for granted much too easily right now. One is, that's LeBron. Yeah, he had good numbers again. Big deal. But it is a big deal at his age. And even Joker, what he statistically continues to do. It's almost like you get so accustomed to, LeBron's still playing. Of course he's still playing, and leaving out the age, but playing at a high level. And with Luka, it's some of these numbers. He keeps doing it over and over again. Great, we're happy for you. I think in both cases, I'm not sure the performances and accomplishments are truly appreciated for how remarkable they are.
Yeah, well said. Well, always a pleasure to join you guys.
Thanks, man.
And again, I'm trying not to take this that critique too much to heart, but I'll work on that.
Larry Mondello guy his heart's in the right place. It's just he's got a role here, and his role
he rips because he loves.
Exactly. Whoever's on, he's got to take the shots. That's the way it works. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
I got you. All right, guys.
Be good. That is the voice of Orono's own Mike Trudell, now Lakers sideline reporter, studio host. He does all kinds of things for that broadcast and has done very, very well. He never really answered the Genie Bus question, and he didn't answer one other one as well, but he answered several others. We're a little late, top of the hour. I do want to remind you what Gaardsy mentioned. We do have a pair of tickets to Game 3, Wolves-Lakers. Each show has been giving away a pair, and the bid is hit the talkback line, the Wolves talkback. Give your best rationale for why the Wolves are going to win. I would have preferred just your analysis, period. But the bit is for why the Wolves are going to win. So even if you don't believe it, just come up with a good, coherent, entertaining, interesting argument via the talkback line. So you have up to 30 seconds. Eventually, we'll pick a winner of all those who participate. So please participate now and participate often, early and often, via the talkback line. Will we make that announcement on air?
Yeah.
That's the plan? Okay.
I think we probably will in the 5 o'clock hour.
Later as well. Don't forget, in about 30 minutes, Ben Gessling and Lavelle at 5.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.